All right, guys, welcome back to another edition of Raw Intuition Inside Scoop. We've got a very special guest for you today. It's not on as much of the food side of things, but it definitely does fall into the detoxification realm. It's something that not a lot of people think about, and that is why Neil Cohen, is a perfect guest for us to educate us and to help us become aware of toxicity around us that we may not notice or may not even realize is something to be concerned about. Neil has a website called sourcepointglobaloutreach.org. He is a therapist, a meditation teacher, and an EMF consultant. So I wanted to bring Neil on and explain to people what EMFs are, what they can do to our health, and how we can protect ourselves from them. So Neil, welcome to the channel.
Thank you. Thanks, Matt. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming on. So first off, Neil, what are EMFs and where do they come from?
It's a simple question, but it's actually a very large answer. I'll try to be short about it. EMFs is electromagnetic frequencies or electromagnetic fields, and they range all the way from low-level magnetic and electric fields that are coming out of the wall from the wiring in your home, that come off your computer, that come off of a refrigerator. Those are low-level electric and magnetic fields. Then you get the high-frequency electromagnetic fields that is referred to as wireless radiation. Mm-hmm. And that is cell phone towers, cell phones, wireless modems, baby monitors, microwave ovens, Bluetooth devices, and something that so many people have, wireless keyboards and wireless mice are all giving off wireless radiation.
Right. Yeah, so, and a lot of people have multiple sources of these things in their homes and their neighbors around them. Are there certain things that produce more than others?
Right now, and just to back up a little bit, I just want to offer a disclaimer, is that I do have a lot of experience on this subject, but I'm not an expert. I don't have any fancy letters after my name. However, I have done a lot of research, and I usually do not say things to clients or people on my YouTube channel unless it's been validated by clinical data. And so I read and study a lot of the clinical data that's been offered by independent doctors and researchers and scientists from around the world. And by the way, they are all agreeing unanimously that wireless radiation is dangerous. There is literally no debate left. And I'm not asking anybody to believe me, just people can do their own research online, but there's actually no debate left. Some people will say, oh, it's debatable whether wireless radiation is dangerous, and oh, the sun has as much radiation has less radiation or more radiation than the wireless modem. All these statements are incorrect from people who have agendas to protect or who are not educated.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So how did you get interested in this topic?
It's very interesting. Living in Mount Shasta, California, people are going to have to put on their tinfoil hats. I became very disappointed with how much chemtrail spraying there was, how much of the geoengineering, stratospheric geoengineering. Mm-hmm. It's so often in Mount Shasta that I became very disappointed and wanted to find other places to live. So my girlfriend and I traveled to Peru. We went to Costa Rica. While we're in Costa Rica, it seems like every street corner I'd be stopping for fruit. You know, I want coconuts, bananas, mangoes, right? Mm-hmm. And I'd be stopping at a fruit stand and I'd be getting a headache and wondering what's going on. And then we would drive the car around the corner and I'd look up and there'd be 2 or 3 giant cell phone towers. And I remember saying to her, when I get back to the US, I'm going to buy some type of a meter, something to measure these things. What's going on? So to make a long story short, I ended up purchasing $4,000 worth of EMF meters of various types. I studied with experts. I went into people's homes. I created a YouTube channel and started validating why I was feeling bad around cell phone towers or driving in the car with somebody with their cell phone, even on standby. And with all the clinical data that I started studying, I saw physiologically why I was reacting and that I was not just an oversensitive person.
Yeah.
I was tuning into the biological effects of wireless radiation. And so it's strange because my first love is psychology, Eastern and Western psychology and meditation. And basically that's what I do. I teach meditation and I'm a therapist. And I never wanted to get into the EMF issue until I saw how important the subject was and how many people were starting to actually suffer symptoms all around the world.
Yeah. So what are some symptoms that people normally notice if they're sensitive to EMFs?
This is my deepest, most heartfelt concern, which really motivates me to do this work and to try to get the message out, to educate people. Wireless radiation and all electromagnetic radiation is invisible. We can't see it, right? So that's kind of, okay, that's obvious, right? The thing is that although you can't see it, does not mean it's not toxic to the body.
Yeah.
And so people have brain fog, they have headaches, they have depression, they have lethargy, they have chronic fatigue. People have all kinds of different symptoms. And the thing that bothers me the most is someone will blame it on themselves. Or I don't know what I'm eating wrong, or I don't know what I'm doing wrong, I don't know why I'm depressed. And then they go to a doctor or a psychotherapist and they can't find anything wrong with them, or they misdiagnose them and start giving them pharmaceuticals. You see how it's an endless cycle?
Yeah.
It's a very, very bad cycle. I tell people all the time when I'd work with a client, being a therapist, and I've studied holistic health for 35 years, I would say, well, how are you feeling in your heart and what are you eating? Now when people come to me, I say to them, you don't know who you are until you have wireless devices out of your home for a couple of weeks.
Yeah, that's a good point. Because really, how would anybody know what their true, what their base level of health is if they're constantly being, radiated? Basically, is that what is? So is this basically like what happens to food when you put it in a microwave? Is that the same type of waves?
Yes, it's almost exactly the same kind of waves. However, again, I'm not an expert, but a microwave is an enclosed device that's bombarding the food.
Yeah.
When someone holds a cell phone right next to their head, they are holding a microwave radio. It's hand-me-down military technology. We always get the military technology about 20, 30 years later after they're done with it.
Right.
But it is basically a microwave radio, and even the little manuals that come with a cell phone, in tiny little print, they will tell you, don't hold the cell phone closer than 5/8 of an inch to your head.
Oh, really? It says that on the instructions, huh?
Because they know.
Yeah.
But they won't admit it. So I tell everybody, if you're going to use a cell phone, put it on speakerphone and hold it out like this.
Yeah. What do you think about things like air tube headsets? Are they helpful or are they?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, they're absolutely. That's an absolute must. An air tube headset and using speakerphone. And another thing that's extremely important to mention is because most people don't have radio frequency meters, they don't realize that carrying their cell phone around, the cell phone is shooting out high spikes of radiation every few minutes, seeking to stay in contact with a local cell phone tower. And so it's shooting through people's bodies, shooting through their heart, shooting through their brain, hundreds of times a day. So I tell people, if you can handle it, put it on airplane mode, so the phone is not able to receive calls and it's not shooting out radiation. When you want to get your messages and make calls, take it off airplane mode. do your business, and then put it back on airplane mode. Women are putting cell phones in their bras, and they're getting tumors the exact size of the antenna. Guys have cell phones down in their pockets, by their genitals. If they don't want to reproduce, that's fine. It's sorry for my sarcasm, but this is the clinical data is showing up all over the world. The only arguments are from the telecommunications industry data that's been manipulated.
Sure. Yeah, and the sperm, that's what they're seeing with men, right? Is that sperm the number of usable sperm is decreasing significantly?
Yes. In the past, people have been told that radiation is only dangerous if it's ionizing radiation, which means the radiation from a nuclear power plant. And cell phone radiation or wireless modem radiation is called non-ionizing radiation. And they say, oh, that can't hurt you. Well, there's clinical data all over the world that's showing that non-ionizing radiation does have what's called non-thermal or non-heating effects, and it does actually break DNA, which means it is genotoxic.
Wow.
So a lot of times on my YouTube channel, my EMF Safety Zone YouTube channel, people, they'll say rude things. They'll say, oh, you're an idiot. Only when they send in comments, they'll go, you're an idiot. Only ionizing radiation can hurt you. And those comments show a lack of education, because non-ionizing radiation is carcinogenic and it is genotoxic, but it's cumulative. No one's going to die immediately from using their cell phone.
Right. It's like eating a poor diet, the standard American diet. It's not going to kill you right away, but over time it accumulates, and that's where this comes from.
And understand, people ask this a lot. I hope this is an interesting comment. But people say, is wireless toxic? Does it build up in your body? It's not that it builds up in your body like you're eating a toxic food. It's the detrimental health effects are what's cumulative. Mm-hmm. It's not like you're building up a physical toxin.
Okay.
It's more like getting hit by the frequency all the time, and the DNA is getting damaged, and then the DNA starts reproducing damaged DNA.
Wow. So I suppose that carries over into the offspring of somebody that's having children then.
It can. I don't know. Again, I'm not an expert. I don't know that. But I know it does carry off. What carries over into the offspring is people having a wireless modem in their house when the wife is pregnant. Or I've seen very conscious young women who had big bellies, and they were pregnant, and they're sitting there texting on their cell phone about a foot away from their belly.
Yeah.
Now that's going to carry over into one's offspring.
Right. Wow.
Or kids using cell phones, which is a travesty.
Yeah. Yeah. So how does like a flip phone compare to a smartphone?
That's a really good question. The flip phones have a lot less power.
Okay.
I don't even like to say this, but they're a little bit safer.
Okay. Yeah.
The iPhones, the smartphones. I'm kind of dumb on this subject because I have a cell phone, but it sits in my car, and I make maybe, I don't know, a couple calls a week on it for 10 seconds, if even that.
Yeah.
The smartphones are incredibly powerful, and they have a very strong radiation when you're using a radio frequency meter such as this.
Okay.
Like I just turn this meter on, and you can't even tell it's on because I don't have wireless internet here and I don't live near a cell phone tower. Usually in anyone's house, you would see the lights bouncing around and you would hear a very loud sound coming out of the meter.
Okay.
And I moved here to Hawaii specifically for this reason.
Wow. So where would somebody get a device like that to see what sort of conditions they're living in?
Well, there's lots of them, and I don't want to give you a sales pitch because I sell radio frequency meters all over the world, okay. Not because I'm trying to make money, because I knew people needed them. This one right here is one of my favorite meters, but it's $355, and that's not affordable to everybody. Mm-hmm. This is called an acoustometer. It's probably my best friend. It's
Okay.
a seeing eye dog. I could go into any environment and find out what's going on. But on eBay and Amazon, there's a lot of different EMF meters. My other favorite one is called the Acousticom 2, and that one is under $200, and that's an excellent meter as well.
Okay.
But I really do feel strongly that everybody needs to have a radio frequency meter to see where it's safe to live and work. Because living in a condominium or an apartment, everybody has wireless devices going through each other's walls.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, how generally, what do you see for how far away from a neighbor would you have to be to actually be getting exposure to some of these EMFs?
Every situation is different, but when I go into people's houses, you can have a neighbor 20 feet away, right? And they'll have a cordless phone in their office, and you can measure the radiation from that cordless phone all the way in the neighbor's house.
Wow.
Now, it's not as dangerous as having a cordless phone in one's house.
Mm-hmm.
That's why you can walk down the street on a cordless phone. You can walk down the block talking on it because the base station is radiating to the handset.
Right.
And then a lot of people have a cordless phone sitting on their nightstand getting irradiated all night long, and people are wondering why sleep issues are now a global problem.
Yeah.
I was on the phone with a medical doctor the other day, and I said to him, sir, I don't have credentials like you do, but I have done a lot of research, and here's what I'm finding out. What do you think? And I said, sleep issues are global. People's symptoms, much of their symptoms are related to wireless. He agreed 100% with me.
Really?
And that's very rare for an MD.
Okay. So.
And he was seeing his clients are not sleeping. That's actually why he called me.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. Because the first thing wireless radiation does is it throws the melatonin levels in the brain out of balance.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of the first symptoms.
Okay. It's funny that you say that because I just purchased a container it's like a little wire box called a smart meter guard, and the router goes into a router guard. And that's supposed to block up to 95% of the EMFs coming out of it. And both me and my girlfriend have slept much better, and we've woken up much more refreshed since we've had that the guard on that. So, yeah, we can definitely attest to the effects of sleep.
Yeah, that's not your imagination at all. The smart meter guards, they're very simple. It's not new agey at all. It's the steel mesh, what's called attenuates the radio frequency. It shields it. So the radio frequency waves hit the metal and just drop. So it actually does cut down the transmission from the smart meters quite a bit.
Wow.
And from the routers.
Wow. Okay. Good to know. So we got Wi-Fi, we got cell phones, cell phone towers. Are there any other specific things that people should be aware of that might be giving them exposure to EMFs?
Yeah, I can measure some basic things, and when I'm looking up here, I'm looking at some notes I wrote down so I would remember them all. Every person most likely has a bed that's located near a wall. Okay? Behind every wall in most every home, you have wiring. Now we can say, well, there's nothing plugged into the wall. There's nothing plugged in and turned on. When you use a meter like this is an electric and magnetic field meter. It's a very simple device, but this is an expensive one since I have to go into people's homes and I need a good meter. When you turn this meter on and walk up to a wall, you'll see that there's electric fields spinning out of that wall about a foot to 2 feet off the wall, even when there's nothing plugged in.
Wow.
So people are sleeping next to the wall, and the electrical fields are grounding through the body since the body's mostly water.
Okay.
So the first thing I tell people is move your bed 12 to 14 inches away from the wall. And even better yet, find the circuits that turn off the electricity in your bedroom
Okay.
And sometimes it's easy in someone's house because what a circuit that turns off the bedroom might turn off the refrigerator or the heating system or something. But if you can find the circuit or the circuits that will turn off the lights on the ceiling and the outlets on the floor, the body can heal very, very rapidly, and you can wake up in the morning feeling much more refreshed by not being exposed to electric fields.
Wow. That is
It's
good information.
I've been in people's houses where they've had a wireless modem and a cordless phone underneath their bed.
Oh my gosh.
And the lady was taking pharmaceuticals to sleep. And I went in there and I helped her hardwire her computer. She got a regular landline phone. And I saw her about a week later. She goes, "Oh, I'm not taking any of my pharmaceuticals. I sleep fine."
That's awesome.
And she didn't even say thank you.
Wow. So other than that, are there any other specific things that people can do to limit their exposure or protect themselves?
Thanks for keeping me on the subject. It's a big subject, so I have so many aspects of it in my mind that it's hard to funnel down. So the electric fields from the wall, that's important, and we talked about that, and I gave 2 suggestions for that: turning circuits off or moving the bed away from the wall. The most important steps that a person can take is to remove wireless devices from the home. And I mean, people's kids have wireless gaming devices that shoot my meter over its capacity to even measure. They're so strong. Removing microwave ovens, wireless devices, plug the computer into the modem or the router with an Ethernet cord, and disable the wireless option. It's the best thing a person can do. And never have a cordless phone in the home. Cordless phones, literally, no joke, are like having a cell phone tower in your home.
Wow.
They radiate 24 hours a day. Whether you're using the handset or it's just sitting on the base station, it's radiating all the time. So those need to be thrown into the trash.
Okay.
Just dump them and get a regular phone. And people go, "Oh, you mean an old-fashioned phone?" I go, "It's not old-fashioned. It just has a cord. Big deal."
Yeah, exactly. You want to weigh your options. Do you want to fry yourself and have a phone you can walk around rooms in, or do you want to, protect your health for the long term and have a little cord with you?
Exactly. That's well said.
Yeah.
So, I used to have a cordless phone on my desk all the time. And when I started tuning in more to the EMF issue, I realized I was irritable sitting at my desk all the time, and I thought there was something emotionally wrong with me. And when I got rid of the cordless phone, I was like a different person 3 or 4 days later.
Wow.
I thought it was my imagination. And then after studying the biological effects of wireless radiation, I found out, oh, this is not my imagination. And people think they're crazy. Doctors are telling them that their symptoms are psychosomatic. People are not crazy who are experiencing these things. Let me offer this, and I'm not sure I have this number exact because I don't have a photographic memory and I don't specialize in facts and figures and numbers. However, if I remember correctly, the government safety standards for exposure to wireless radiation, it's something like about 10 million microwatts per square meter they consider safe for public exposure.
Okay.
A number of scientists gathered from around the world and created what's called the Bioinitiative Report 2012. It's at www.bioinitiative.org. And the summary of all these PhDs, all these scientists, they were independent of the telecommunications industry. They basically summarized that biological effects from exposure to wireless radiation starts at 3.4 microwatts per square meter. Now, 3.4 microwatts per square meter is a lot less than 10 million.
Yeah.
You kind of catch the implications? On this meter right here, can you see that okay?
Yeah.
3.4 microwatts per square meter is just about down here at the very bottom of that scale. When I go into people's homes who have wireless devices, this meter has red lights going off way at the top here.
That's
So
crazy.
people are literally tens to hundreds to thousands of times higher than where biological effects start in almost everybody's home and office where they're working.
That is terrible. There's, and what is aren't there statistics showing that there's groups around wherever there's a cell phone tower, there's higher rates of cancer in that area?
Yeah, you ask great questions. Thank you. There are cancer clusters approximately 1/3 of a mile in circumference around cell phone towers. Some gentleman in Israel bought a very expensive radio frequency meter and went around and actually found this out to be true there as well. But yes, there are cancer clusters.
Yeah.
And this issue is like this, the tobacco issue. Doctors used to tell us to smoke because it was healthy. It was good for our lungs.
Yeah.
It took 50 years to finally bust the tobacco industry. In the wireless issue, we are in the next tobacco issue. This is it. And it's going to be a number of years. But the only reason that I feel positive about this issue is because of people like yourself and your YouTube channel. I have a YouTube channel up with the most boring EMF videos you can imagine, and it's probably approaching 500,000 views. And so people are waking up.
Yeah.
People like Dr. Magda Havis, Dr. Sam Milham, Dr. Sinatra, Barry Trower, who's an ex-microwave radiation expert in the military. These people are speaking out all over YouTube.
Wow. So yeah,
And so I'm
but I love your channel, by the way. I think it's been a couple of years since you put up a video, right?
You know, I really, strangely, I feel like I covered so much that everything would just be reproducing what's already there. So I really feel like I gave it my all.
Yeah.
I'm not a techie guy. I don't really know YouTube that well, but I shot those videos. I got the statistics up there. I showed people what was coming out of cordless phones and internet modems and finding cell phone towers in various cities. So, you know, I hopefully it's just doing its job now, and people are getting educated.
Oh yeah, yeah, and guys,
I want to keep making more videos because I'm just showing the same thing over and over again.
Sure, that makes sense. But I really encourage all of you to go out and check out the channel. It's EMF Safety Zone, right?
Yes, if you go to YouTube, you just put in EMF Safety Zone,
Okay.
and then you'll see all the videos, and you can click into the channel. And then also, if people want excellent references to validate anything that I've been saying, if you go to my nonprofit website, it's a small nonprofit organization. The EMF consulting page is emfsafe.org, emfsafe.org, and on the right-hand side, there's numerous resources with clinical data and suggestions for creating a healthier home. There's all kinds of excellent resources where people can educate themselves. But number one is my main message to people is you really need to consider getting wireless devices out of the home so you can have 8 hours of healthy sleep without being penetrated by the radio frequency radiation.
Yeah. What would you suggest for people that live in apartments or townhomes or really close proximities to their neighbors?
Do you really want to know?
Are you going to say to move?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
You know how it must be very difficult for a doctor, you know, a licensed MD, if somebody has a life-threatening disease, the doctor must have to take a deep breath and get ready to tell a person the prognosis or the diagnosis or whatever, right?
Yeah, yeah.
At first, I was worried about myself. I'm thinking, oh, I hope I'm not being arrogant, or I hope I'm not misleading people, because I'm very dedicated to truth and I care about human beings immensely. After my studies and after listening to expert after expert after expert, when people call me now and they say, I'm not feeling well, I live in a high rise in New York. I have 2 cell phone towers on the adjacent building. My wife is pregnant. I'm surrounded on 3 sides by other apartments. What should I do? I go, you have to move.
Yeah.
And I don't even, it doesn't bother me at all to tell them because it's the best information I can give a person. The saddest thing to me is that we're in a time on the planet right now where it is no longer healthy or safe to live in an apartment or condominium. It's hard to believe, but times are changing.
Yeah.
And each different time brings its own challenges. And right now, you cannot move into an apartment or a condominium without having, I don't know, probably a 99% chance that you're surrounded by people with wireless devices. And it could be coming right through your bedroom wall with someone's cordless phone on the other side of the wall.
Yeah, that's scary.
And wireless, it is. It is. And then some people say to me, oh, well, it's not safe anywhere. There's nothing we can do. That's not true. That's not true at all. There's lots of steps people can take, from hanging radio frequency shielding fabric on the wall, which I did in an apartment I was living in. It dropped the measurements down to nothing. People can move. They can buy a radio frequency meter and see what's going on and then take necessary actions.
Okay.
It's not impossible to find a place to live where your exposure levels are lower. It's difficult, but not impossible.
Yeah. Especially in the city, I'm sure.
I could never live in another city.
Yeah.
I lived in a very small town in Mount Shasta. They put a cell phone tower up in the middle of the town, and they had a couple cell phone towers up on the hills. And the entire ambient background radiation of the town was something like 15 to 40 microwatts per square meter. Most people didn't know that. I'm the weird person who's walking around town with a meter going like this all the time. And I realized I didn't want to live there anymore.
Yeah.
So now I'm on 5 acres of land in Hawaii, and unfortunately I still have a cell phone tower about 1.5 miles away, and people do pick up a cell phone signal here, but it doesn't register on my meter. So in terms of relativity, that's a relatively safe place for me right now. At least the meter isn't registering.
Yeah.
In cities, it would be almost impossible to find a place where you weren't being blasted pretty strong.
Mm-hmm. So would you say the first step would be, before anybody freak out, to get a meter if they can get one?
Yes, absolutely. And there really is no need to freak out.
Mm-hmm.
And I appreciate what you're saying, because it's true. Some people will go into freaking out first.
Yeah.
But the thing is, it's like when you see them spraying the skies with the geoengineering program and you see them laying down chemical trails, it's a little bit frustrating because, in a sense, like one person, it's hard for one person to do anything about it. It's a very big global issue. The military and the government are involved. That is a frustrating issue.
Yeah.
One of the reasons why I feel creative educating people on the EMF subject is because there's always positive steps a person can take. Always.
Yeah.
If they want to. Now, if someone's addicted to their wireless devices, I don't really have conversations with them. We're not on the same wavelength.
Yeah.
Pun intended.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
There is always positive steps a person can take.
yeah. That's the sad thing, is that, you go around town or you ride public transportation and everybody is just zoned in on their phones. Almost 90% of the people are not. They just are hooked on those things.
My girlfriend says to me, we go to the airport and my mouth is hanging open and I'm like, look at that. There's 15 people in a row all on their cell phones. And she looks at me and she goes, how come you are still amazed? And I go, I can't stop being amazed. Now, she is a PhD biologist, okay?
Okay.
She is so smart that after being a PhD biologist, she then went through law school and became a biomedical patent lawyer. She saw me freaking out, right, with this EMF issue. And she saw me buying the meters and going around measuring things, and she really wasn't that interested.
Mm-hmm.
And then she started studying it in her own way because she has to be convinced with epidemiological statistics, with clinical data. She wanted to see what levels of blood-brain barrier penetration there was from wireless radiation, activation of stress shock proteins, oxidative stress. She is now more passionate about the subject than I am.
Wow.
And she will interrupt me in mid-sentence when we're talking to people, passionately warning them. And the thing that inspired her is her concern for the children. That's who she thinks is really going to suffer.
Yeah, I would agree with that 100%, especially with so many schools giving, now all the kids have iPads or whatever they're called. Honestly, I'm not even too familiar with what they're all called anymore, but I think it's iPads or something like that instead of having textbooks. You know, it's all electronic now, and so they're exposed to that all the time.
You know, being a meditation teacher, and I promise I won't be long-winded here, but I just want to make a simple statement. A person's power is in their attention, as we've been taught for thousands of years from Eastern teachings, from Buddhist and Hindu teachings, and from meditation masters. A person's power is in their attention. Whoever or whatever steals your attention has your power. And I just think it's an important thing for people to consider that, you know, when you're sitting here looking at your cell phone all day long or on your iPad, those industries, those corporations, they have your attention. They have stole your attention. So the attention ceases to go inward and deepen into one's own heart and into one's core essence. And I think really slows down the process of awakening.
Yeah.
Evolution is about awakening. Where do we put our attention?
That is really powerful information. And the thing that I kind of say to those that are close to me is that, you know, attention is really, it's like currency. And that's why they say, are you paying attention? So what are you paying your attention to? You know, that is what you are putting your hard-earned, basically life force when it comes to your personal attention. What are you putting that your attention into? And that's what you're going to get more of, you know? So yeah, that really resonates with me when you say that.
Very well said.
Thank you.
Now, I was interviewed on the radio about a year ago on a gentleman's channel, and he was very conspiratorial. And he kept, you know, I want to be professional and I want to be conservative in my form of education to people so people can take positive steps. I don't want to scream, the sky is falling. And he kept trying to push me into more conspiratorial levels. And first of all, I didn't really want to go there for lots of reasons. However, at the same time, I do want to mention to people that when you start studying the effects of the geoengineering program having a conductive plasma field through the entire sky, through the entire globe, and you have a build-out of cell phone towers all around the planet, which can conduct through that plasma field, and then you have people using cell phones, which are transmitting devices, and you have cellular antennas in elementary schools and high schools and in public areas. I just want to suggest that this issue goes deep down the rabbit hole, deeper than I will talk about here. But people, when people talk about the matrix, reducing your radio frequency radiation exposure is the first step a person can take to removing themselves from the matrix.
That's a good point.
It's vitally important. Part of awakening, part of, as you know, a raw food diet with all that nutrition and all the positive electromagnetic energy, you're opening the pineal and pituitary gland in the head so one is connected to God. You're opening the heart to more subtle universal frequencies.
Exactly.
The first time I used a cell phone many years ago, I said to my friends, this cell phone will cut you off from God. And they all said to me, oh, you're so dramatic, you're so oversensitive, don't go around saying things like that. 15 years later, I saw a video on YouTube by Dr. Manfred Deep, Deoepp, and he said, cell phones will cut you off from God. He's a German scientist. I'll
Yeah.
never forget him saying that. And he was explaining how the incoherent frequencies of the wireless will actually distort and disturb the subtle coherent electromagnetic interaction between the pineal and pituitary gland, which what people call the third eye isn't just the pineal gland. What they call the third eye is the electromagnetic interaction between the pineal and pituitary gland. So the spirit, which is based in the pineal gland, is communicating with the personality, which is based in the pituitary gland. It's a male-female tantric interaction. Holding a cell phone here like this, I don't know how anyone's not going to disturb that very subtle interaction that's necessary to feel connected to source.
Yeah.
I'm very passionate about that, you can tell.
Yes, yeah, I like it. And what another thing that kind of popped into my head when you were saying that about disconnecting us from God and I mean nature and the effects that these EMFs are having not just on our connection with nature and with God, but the animals, the bees, the butterflies, all those things that have been shown to be decreasing. And of course, there could be multiple factors that are influencing that, such as chemtrails or pesticides, the GMOs. But would you say that the EMFs are playing a significant role in that?
There have not been the levels of man-made electromagnetic radiation that's existent right now on this planet since the beginning of time. Don't let anyone ever tell you. People will say, oh, there's radiation from stars and from the sun, and radio frequency radiation, it's a natural part of the universe. It's not. The microwave radio frequency radiation part of the electromagnetic spectrum is mostly man-made. The EMF levels on the planet right now are, I forget my facts and figures, but they're millions of times higher than they've ever been since the beginning of time. We are absolute guinea pigs. That's why it's so important to eat a good diet, like you're talking about, to have a lot of live food and to walk barefoot on the ground all the time.
Yeah.
As much as possible to be barefoot and to be outside.
Definitely.
And if you don't mind me bringing this up, because I know people will have questions, the grounding products, or the earthing or grounding products, are very important these days. I mean, very popular.
Yeah.
And people ask me all the time about the grounding devices. And I'll try to be very clear about this. I like the grounding devices. I like the earthing products. However, building biologists who are well-trained EMF experts, whom I respect, and Dr. Sam Milham, whom I deeply respect, he wrote the book Dirty Electricity and the Diseases of Modern Civilization, I think it's called. He does not agree with grounding at all. And building biologists are very cautious about it as well. So when you get an earthing or a grounding device and you're plugging the ground into your wall socket in the house, you're getting the ground, but the ground wire can also be tainted with what's called high-frequency transients, which is dirty electricity, especially from smart meters, from the electric company, from neighbors. It's all on everyone's wiring. And so although you can be grounded, sleeping on a grounding device, your body can also get tainted from the high-frequency transients or the stray voltage. So some building biologists do not agree with grounding. So I always tell people, if you want to use an earthing or a grounding product, try to run it outside your window and put the spike into the dirt outside your house.
Okay.
That's the best way to do it. And if somebody's in a high-rise apartment building in New York and they want to ground, fine. Then you have to use the ground in the AC outlet. But people do need to be cautious because some people feel better with grounding and they have symptoms alleviated, and some people feel worse, especially very sensitive people. So the grounding issue is controversial.
Okay. As far as just mainly the ones that you plug in?
All grounding systems have to be plugged in. They either have to be plugged into the ground in the AC outlet in the house, or they run on a wire and they hook to a little metal spike that goes in the ground outside. So all of them have to run to a ground.
Yeah. Okay.
But the ones that plug into the wall inside are a little more controversial. Now, I'm not dismissing earthing or grounding products.
Okay.
I like the earthing products. I buy products from their website often. But I did speak to Dr. Milham on the phone, and he kind of grumbled at me. I wouldn't ground anywhere except maybe in the middle of the desert somewhere.
Wow.
He did not like the idea of all the stray voltage running even through the ground in the neighborhood because of the high voltage lines.
Okay.
So this whole message is just that people be cautious and try out a product and see how they feel.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good advice. So
I'm looking here at my notes of a few more suggestions. Do you mind if I make a couple more suggestions?
no, of course, go for it.
Another one I see here is people should be aware not to have beds with metal springs in them. It's much better to change out the mattress for like a natural latex mattress. And some people like Tempur-Pedic mattresses, some don't. You know, the memory foam, some people consider them toxic to the immune system, some don't. Yeah. The point being is when you have a mattress with the coil springs in them, they will actually conduct the electrical fields from your wall.
Oh, no.
I'm sorry I'm smiling. All this stuff just blows my mind.
Yeah. This is where people say, oh, you just can't win, right? And then they're just like, I give up.
True.
Yeah.
It's true. I mean, the EMF issue, it's possible to take positive actions, but there are quite a few of them.
Yeah.
Because what happens when you sleep on a mattress with the coil springs, it picks up on the electrical voltage from the wall and then raises your body voltage.
Wow.
And so people do actually feel a lot better if they have health issues, or even if they don't, by replacing their mattress and not having it right by a wall. I think I mentioned earlier to move your bed 12 to 14 inches from the wall.
So will moving the bed away from the wall, well, maybe not as good as not having the metal springs in there, obviously, but how much is that going to reduce their exposure? A lot?
A lot.
Okay.
Yeah, it'll help. Unless a person's sleeping upstairs and there's wires running underneath the floor from the bottom story, that's all going to be running up through the bed, through the person's body.
Wow. So we're really,
I know
these hot boxes almost, you know, it's like it's running through the walls, it's coming out of our internet. But
it is, it's if you look at a house and you had X-ray vision, we're all basically living in an electrified bird cage.
Yeah.
It's just all wires behind the walls, and we were never meant to live in electricity. So get this, Dr. Milham, he really is my hero. He has 50 years of epidemiological research behind him. This guy is amazing, and he knows what he's talking about. He actually showed that the statistics of disease in America went up at the same rate of when Americans were moving out of rural, non-electrified homes into electrified homes in the cities. And the disease rates went at the same rate.
Wow.
Now, that should be on the first page of every newspaper, magazine. It should be all over the internet. But basically, if I understood his book correctly, he didn't blame it on the 60 cycle per second electricity that's in the wires. It's actually as soon as you plug in your computer, or you plug in a smart meter, or you plug in other electrical devices, that's what interrupts the electricity and creates what's called high frequency transients or dirty electricity. So he felt that it was the dirty electricity that's jumping off the wires that's causing problems. And if anyone's interested, this little meter here this just plugs right into the AC outlet and then you'll get a number, a numerical value there, and this is called a Stetzerizer meter, and anyone can check their levels of dirty electricity with a Stetzerizer meter.
Wow. Okay. Great. Can you get that off of SourcePointGlobalOutreach.org, or where would?
No, I don't sell any of these products on my nonprofit website, but anyone can find this meter on eBay or Amazon or other websites. And then if they want to study about the dirty electricity issue, which is another EMF issue, but the dirty electricity is in between the low-level electric and magnetic fields and between the high-frequency wireless radiation. It's the level of EMF that's in the middle. So it has qualities of both of them. But if someone wants to research it, they can read Dr. Milham's book, or they can buy Stetzerizer or Greenwave microsurge filters. Hang on one second. That's these simple little filters that plug right into the wall. You put 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 of them in your house, and they actually suppress the dirty electricity, but let the regular 60 cycle per second sine wave run right through them. And people with blood sugar problems, diabetes, they usually will have relief within a couple days.
Wow.
After installation. I just talked to a couple EMF experts on the phone the other day because I was asking some questions, and both of these EMF experts told me that after installation of either Greenwave or Stetzerizer microsurge filters, they have had people with blood sugar problems alleviated. I said, "Are you kidding me? That fast?" And they said, "Yeah, it happens all the time."
That's amazing.
This is a big issue. I know it is.
Yeah. Wow. So obviously these EMFs are affecting the endocrine system, and so that can throw off hormones and pretty much anything dealing with our health. This is a huge issue.
I mean, you're very intelligent. Your questions are amazing. Your perception is amazing. I really appreciate it. I really do feel the same way you do, is that you get the electromagnetic fields and they're bombarding the body and they're starting various cascades of biological responses. And so by the time it comes down to a blood sugar issue, or by the time it comes down to a headache, or by the time it comes down to digestive disorders, the doctors are diagnosing it, maybe blaming it on other things, and no one will ever really know what the biological cascade of responses was. And again, I say this humbly because, again, I'm not an expert, but in all my 35 years of study, I really do feel that the EMF issue is probably just about number one, along with the food that we eat. Like, I think a person, if anyone wants to have a major transformation in their life, they need to take 2 steps: reduce their EMF exposure and eat organic food. 100% organic food.
Yeah.
That person's life will absolutely change.
Terrific advice. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I haven't quite got into the reducing my EMF exposure as much as I'm going to, but yeah, the food can definitely bring you to a whole new level of health, but I am excited to see how much higher I can take it by reducing as much as possible my EMF exposure. So this is really exciting for me personally.
Yeah. I'll be excited to hear how it goes for you,
yeah,
and what your experiences are after a little bit of remediation or reduction in the wireless. In any way I can help you personally, just let me know. I'll give you any information you need.
Thank you. One other thing that I thought about earlier when we were talking about geoengineering and the chemtrails, with Prince dying yesterday, if you heard about that.
I just heard about it, but I didn't know who it was. I saw an email. That's interesting.
Yeah, Prince passed away yesterday, and when I was kind of looking at what people were saying, I saw a video, and what I didn't realize was he was big at speaking out about chemtrails and geoengineering, and fluoride in the water. And so that was just another thing that, it's like there's people that are aware of this, but more and more people need to understand that it's not just people in their basements with tinfoil hats on. These are people that know so much more than the majority of people. And so it's not really even a conspiracy theory anymore. It's
True.
definitely something that's going on. So definitely something.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's real. I spend most of my days trying to help people understand the supplementation that needs to be a daily part of their diet. For many, many years, I've been telling people you can't just eat an organic diet and think you're getting everything.
Mm-hmm.
I'm constantly telling people there's a new product on the market, not terribly new, but it's raw chlorella.
Okay.
The stuff is fantastic. People need to be using chlorella, spirulina. The raw chlorella is excellent. People need to be on Lugol's formula iodine, 2%, because the iodine helps chelate the heavy metals and the radioactive isotopes out of the body. Magnesium is just incredibly important. A lot of green foods, wheatgrass juice powder. These things they're imperative, not just to use them every once in a while, but every day, because we are breathing in the heavy metals, and who knows how much of the radioactive isotopes we're getting exposed to with the Fukushima thing, since there's a blackout on the information.
Exactly. Oh, yeah, that is another thing. The Fukushima, the radiation, the chemtrails, the EMFs, which is exactly like you said. It's with all those things, it is so important to eat a healthy diet full of green leafy vegetables, a lot of fruits, because we need to do as much as we can to buffer the stress that we're getting on our cells. And so, the antioxidants in those foods are essential for at least helping out for what we're being exposed to.
Well said. Well said. Matt, I watched a video online, and it had a couple people who were exposed to high levels of radiation where they should have been dead, and they were perfectly healthy. The woman was gorgeous, and they both talked about the things that they did, and it was all the things you teach people on your channel. It was, greens and live foods, high amounts of vitamin C, but I don't agree necessarily with the synthetic vitamin C.
Right.
But they said radiation doesn't have to kill anybody. There's lots of survivors of Chernobyl and other radiation accidents who are alive and well. It's just you need to know what supplements to take.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Awesome. Well, is there any last words or bits of advice that you want to give to the viewers on either just where they can learn more or just things that they should know, or what you want people to take away from this?
Well, I hope we didn't depress anybody with all these heavy subjects.
My viewers they're strong-minded. They'll take this and run with it.
Good. Well, I'm glad. We've covered a lot. Your questions were amazing. You are a very radiant person. I appreciate it. It's just absolute pleasure hanging out with you in cyberspace. I really think the most important thing right now is organic food and reducing one's wireless exposure. By all means, reducing wireless exposure, and people need to rethink, reassess, and be honest with themselves. Am I addicted to this cell phone? Okay, there, I said it. Am I addicted to this cell phone? People really need to assess their wireless habits and make some changes, so they're not going years down the road and finding out the hard way. We're having this conversation so people can learn through wisdom and through ease, not by learning the hard way.
Yep. Yes, that is great advice, and I really want to thank you for agreeing to come on and speak about this subject, because definitely in the health world, I feel like it's not talked about enough. especially in, like the raw food movement. I wish people would talk more about this because they're so intertwined, and it's definitely going to help a lot of people, I think, by sharing this. So thank you again.
Thank you, Matt. Appreciate it.
Yeah. All right, guys. So again, you can find more out about Neil and his resources at sourcepointglobaloutreach.org. Go there, get as much of this information as possible, and really educate yourself about EMFs and Wi-Fi and everything that we talked about today. So I hope this was helpful for you guys. Hope you really enjoyed it as much as I did. And we will catch you in the next episode. Always remember to follow your raw intuition. See you next time.
Detoxify your mind and body. Be the change you want to see. Small steps towards living better. Small steps to where I want to be.